Hey everybody, welcome back to another business analysis video. In today's video, I'm going to talk you through business analyst interview preparation with some example questions and answers. So let's get straight into it, right? In my last video, I talked about becoming a business analyst this year, how to prepare to become a business analyst despite the struggles you might be having. And I gave you a few steps, one of which is to prepare to pass your interview. It's a skill. It's a skill. I know that business analyst interviews can be quite intimidating, especially if you are unsure about what to expect during the interview. But here's the thing. With the right preparation, I know I talk about preparation all the time because I feel like in life or anything that you want to do, anything that you set your mind to do, if you don't prepare for it, you're going to fail. You're preparing to fail, right? So with the right preparation, you can really walk into an interview feeling confident and ready to impress, right? So in this video, I'll share with you practical tips, sample questions, and proven strategies to help you ace both behavioral business analyst interview questions and technical aspects of your business analyst interview. So let's get started. So here are 5 steps to help you to ace your business analyst interview questions, right? The first step is understand the role. You have to try to understand the role before you go into your interview. Part of preparation, right? So before you even think about answering business analyst interview questions, make sure that you fully understand the role that you're applying for. Right? You want to read the job description carefully and you want to identify any key responsibilities that have been written on the job spec or the job description, right? For instance, are they looking for someone who is strong in requirements elicitation, requirements gathering and documentation? Are they looking for someone who knows how to do process mapping, who knows how to use BPMN? So this will really help you to tailor your answers to exactly what the employer is looking for. A pro tip I will also give is to research the company's industry, not just the company. You want to know about the domain, right? Also research the challenges, any recent projects that the company has worked on, right? It shows that you're genuinely interested in the role and that you're also prepared. Now, I'll give you a funny story. I like to tell stories of my own experience. So, my first ever business analyst interview, as much as I prepared, I flopped. I flopped. And what happened in the interview, I actually prepared really well, but and I feel that I confidently answered all the questions. And you know what? That first interview that I ever did was for a contract role, I think it was paying like 400 or 450 per day at the time, which was a lot of money to me. And I really, really wanted to get the job. But on my CV, I had written, as part of my hobbies and interests, I had written research. So be careful what you put on your CV because they might focus on it and try to test you on your skills and your hobbies, right? So what happened was we have answered all the questions. I felt so confident, like, it seems like I'm going to get this job. Oh, what happened next? The interview asked me a question about the company. Tell me a little bit about the company, right? Madam, I did the research. I did know a little bit about the company, but because I had specifically written research on my CV, they wanted me to tell them more, right? Maybe about their strategy, maybe about some, I don't know, case studies. I don't really remember clearly. But apart from knowing what the company does, make sure you know other further details about the company. So this is where I flopped the interview anyway. I just wanted to give that story, which I think about it sometimes and I just laugh at myself because I was at the beginning of my career. So for you who are also at the beginning of your career, preparation is key, is what I'm trying to say. And also, another extra tip, be careful what you put on your CV. Make sure you're able to justify, make sure you are able to answer any question that comes up around what you have put on your CV. That's it. Okay, so moving on to step 2, Prepare for common questions that may come up during the interview. Again, based on the job spec, the job description, you want to sort of predict certain questions that may come up, right? So let's talk about the types of questions that you may likely face, right? Business analyst interviews usually include a mix of behavioral questions and technical questions, right? When I talk about technical questions, I'm referring to your tools and techniques. When I talk about behavioral questions, they're looking at your soft skills, right? So here are a few examples along with tips to answer the questions. So example one question is, can you describe a time where you had to deal with conflicting requirements? How did you handle it? How are you going to answer the question? I generally answer interview questions using the STAR method. If you'd like to see a live demonstration of me doing an interview, click the link here to watch that video. But anyway, going on to answer the question, you want to present a situation, tell a story, right? So you could give an example, such as in my previous role, I worked on a project where two key stakeholders, maybe the marketing manager and the sales team, had conflicting priorities for a new CRM system, right? Maybe the worldview of the sales manager was different to the worldview of the sales team. The marketing manager wanted features for customer insights, whereas the sales team needed tools to speed up deal closures, to speed up their process for sales, right? So both had different priorities, both had different perspectives. Now, going on to the T, which stands for task on the STAR method, you want to talk about what your task on that scenario was. What was your expectation? What were you supposed to do as a business analyst, right? So you can answer the question like this. My job was to ensure that both teams' needs were addressed without compromising the project timeline. That's a good point there, stating what your task was. But it doesn't finish there, because you want to also talk about your action, right? So what did you do when you realized that there was conflicting priorities with the stakeholder requirements, right? Your action could be, I facilitated a joint workshop to gather requirements from both teams. During the session, I used prioritization techniques such as Moscow, and I identified high priority needs. What is the highest priority for the project? And I also documented a requirements traceability matrix to ensure transparency. So you've already sold yourself that, okay, this was the situation, this was the issue. This was the task that I was supposed to do. This is how I performed on that task. These are the actions that I performed. And now you want to talk about the outcome, the result, right? Both teams felt heard, and we delivered a CRM system that balanced their needs, leading to, I don't know, you could give some figures, right? Leading to a 25% increase in user adoption within 3 months, right? So that's one way to answer such a question, by giving an example and telling a story. Now, looking at some example of technical questions that could come up, you don't have to answer them in STAR method, right? Generally, behavioral questions you can answer in STAR method by telling a story, but in technical questions, it's not always the case, right? So to answer the question of how would you approach creating a process flow for a new system, first, I would identify and meet with key stakeholders to understand the process. This is generally what we do as business analysts. You first want to understand who are the key stakeholders and what is the current process. What is the process? Then I'd map out the current process using tools like Lucidchart or Visio. So you're also telling the interviewer that you know how to use Lucidchart and Visio. I'd highlight inefficiencies and gaps before designing the to-be process, right? You also want to sort of sell that when mapping a process, the key reason for mapping the as-is is to identify areas for improvement, maybe identify some gaps, and just generally looking at ways you can improve that process. So to close off that questions, you also then want to validate, which is something that we do as business analysts. When you're mapping a process, you first want to, again, like I mentioned, identify the process, map the process, identify the improvement areas to create a vision of the to-be process, and then validate it with the key stakeholders so that they can ensure that, yes, you actually really understand what they're doing. So you can then say, I'd validate it with stakeholders to ensure that it aligns with the business goals before finalizing the documentation. Now, moving on to step two actually took a while to go through, but moving on to step three, you want to highlight your skills and experience during your interview, right? Again, like I said, you want to sell yourself. This is your time, right? It's like giving a pitch, a business pitch. You are the product, right? You're selling yourself and the services. So you really want to highlight those skills. During the interview, you will need to prove that you have the skills to succeed as a business analyst. Share examples from your past experience where you've demonstrated business analyst skills, as well as where you've demonstrated the skills, the tools and techniques described on the job spec. Okay. So certain business analyst skills such as gathering requirements from stakeholders, creating process flows or wireframes or prototypes, collaborating with technical teams to deliver solutions. Now you're probably wondering, I'm transitioning into a BA role, but I don't have direct experience. So how can I sell myself? Focus on your transferable skills, like I mentioned in my last video, right? For example, if you've worked in customer service, talk about how you manage stakeholders, talk about how you manage difficult customers, right? The goal is to connect your experience to the business analyst role. That's the goal. Moving on to step 4, ask smart questions. Questions that make sense. And you must ask questions during your interview, right? Remember that interviews are a two-way street. It's not just the interviewer asking a question. It's not just you selling yourself to the interviewer. The interviewer has to sell themselves and has to sell the company to you so that you can decide whether this is actually a company that I want to work for. So be mindful of that. It will also help you to manage your anxiety. Yeah. Okay, so towards the end of the interview session, you usually be asked, do you have any questions? The interviewer will ask you if you have any question. So this is your chance to show your curiosity and engagement, to show that you have been listening and that you are actually interested in the job. So some example of questions you can ask are, what does success look like in this role for the first 6 months, right? You want to set your expectations. And it also, again, shows that you're curious about the work that you'll be doing and you're also curious about delivering value and succeeding in your role. The next question could be, can you share more about the team dynamics and how the business analyst collaborates with other roles? So that they give you, an explanation and then you have your expectations set. A third question could be, what tools and methodologies does your team prefer for business analysis work? So maybe they can then talk about whether they use Jira or not, whether they mainly are waterfall or mainly are agile or a bit or a mix of both, right? So that you can, again, set your expectation. Although be careful because this may already have been highlighted on the job spec. But, you are smart. You know, you use your sense, use your brain. So asking thoughtful questions not only shows that you're serious about the role, but it also helps determine if the job is the right role for you. Okay? Step 5, practice and build confidence. You have to practice these questions and answers, right? I have so many tools available on the membership space that can help you write down example questions and example answers, not so that you can cram it, but just as part of your preparation so that you can write possible answers that you could give, and through practice it would become sort of your story, part of you, so much so that whenever somebody asks you, you just know the answer immediately, right? Practice makes progress. For everything that you practice, you continuously grow and be good at it, right? Conduct mock interview questions with your friends or your mentor, your closest relative, right? And just try to get feedback on your answers, what they think, and not just on your answers, but on your body language as well. Another thing you can do if you don't want to practice with someone is to record yourself and watch, right? Watch the playback so that you can highlight various areas that you can then work on to improve your delivery. Confidence comes from preparation, right? So the more you practice, the more confident you'll start to feel. And don't forget, body language matters, is very important. So try to sit up straight, maintain eye contact, and smile. Smile. It leaves a positive impression. So here are some bonus tips for virtual interviews, because obviously we're all virtual. Most of us are virtual now, and some interviews are done virtually. So one thing you want to do is test your tech. Don't join the meeting and then your internet fails. Don't join the meeting and you realize, oh, I don't actually have Teams. I don't actually have Zoom, right? Make sure your microphone, your camera, and your internet connections are working. Number 2, choose a professional background with good lighting, right? Something like this, I think, is fine, or a blank wall is fine, right? So you want to make sure that they can see your face as well and see your facial expressions. Thirdly, as much as it's a virtual meeting or a virtual interview, dress professionally. Oh, my tummy rumbling. Right? So you want to dress as if you're actually going to meet the person, the interviewer, face to face. And it will also add some level of confidence for you, right? Even if it's for you to do makeup, do your hair, just look nice and presentable. So that's it for today's video, 5 steps to acing your business analyst interview. I hope you found some value in that video. Here's other videos that you can also watch to help you with your interview preparation. Thank you again for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content. You never know who it might help. Till I see you in my next one. Peace.